All right, welcome to Talkin' Investing. I am Tom, and as always, this is not financial information. Today, I want to go through June operations and count down the top 10 for all the Bitcoin miners in a bunch of different categories. So we do this top 10 list each month. This month, it's going to be a little different. I've added some new information, and I've switched over from spreadsheets to charts per everybody's request. So we got a lot of information coming at you. So we talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners all the time on this channel. If that is content that you're interested in, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody would please smash the like button, it helps the channel out a lot and I really appreciate it. And it helps get this video out to more people. Okay, so Bitcoin has been on a little bit of a roll lately, but we're not here to talk about that. What I want to go through is June operations. And I want to look at each one of these companies operationally in a lot of different ways. And we're going to look at the top 10 performers in all of those different ways. So before we get started, a few notes. A few companies did not put out a monthly operational update. Stronghold did not put out a monthly operational update. Mawson, stock ticker MIGI, did not put out an operational update, and they typically have put one out every month. So that is missing. Now, I've done a separate video on Mawson, which you can check out right here. They have a big problem going on, and I suspect that's why they haven't put their operational report out yet. And I just want to mention that Cypher and TeraWulf have never put out an operational report. So they did put out a press release many months ago saying they started mining, but there have been no reports. We have been given no numbers at all on whether they've mined 1 Bitcoin, 100 Bitcoin. So we're in the dark. They are radio silent. So I guess I would put out to those 4 companies, your shareholders want to know what's going on. So hopefully they can get us an operational report. Everybody else, fortunately, has given us their monthly operational report. So I take those reports and I pull certain information out of them. So let's take a look. The first one I want to count down is the top 10 Bitcoin miners by the number of Bitcoin mined in June. So this is June operation. Who mined the most Bitcoin in June? That's where we'll start. Okay, so in the past I've counted these down top 10 style, but now I'm just going to show you the chart. So this is basically the chart. You'll see we've got 1 through 10 listed on here. After that, these are outside of the top 10. And like I said, Mawson, Stronghold, Cypher, and TeraWulf have not reported at all. So there's no information. So these are not necessarily zeros. We just don't have information. And again, from my perspective as an investor, I think one of the most critical things that these companies can do is give us information on a monthly basis. Sometimes good things are going on, sometimes bad things are going on. An informed investor is usually more comfortable in keeping their investment. So I know in particular Mawson is going through an awful lot right now, and so is Stronghold, but they know the data, they have the information. It would be my preference that they put out an operational report. So that's all I'll say about that. So let's talk about the top 10. Fairly similar with one exception. So you're going to see one exception throughout all these reports, and I'm going to start with that. At number 10 is Marathon. Marathon mined 140 Bitcoin in the month of June. So Marathon's June numbers are going to be not very meaningful as we go through all of these spreadsheets. You're going to see some of them I've put an asterisk on, some of them I've left off altogether because they are in such a state of flux. They turned off almost every single machine that they have in the month of June. July, I suspect, is going to be similar. A realistic 1-month window for them to be up and running is August, and that could be dramatically different. So they've got a lot of contingent stuff going on. They did just sign some big deals yesterday. However, those relate more to 2023. Okay, so number 1, as always, every single month this year has been Core Scientific. Core Scientific operationally, as far as the number of Bitcoin they mine, they're just mining a lot more Bitcoin than anybody else. I mean, this graphically shows it. They're more than double the second place Bitcoin miner. Now, having said that, that does not make them the number 1 miner from an investment standpoint. So I want to remember, as we look at each one of these charts, each one of these is just one piece of the puzzle. So just because Core Scientific is number 1 in number of Bitcoin mined does not mean they're the number 1 investment of all the Bitcoin miners. We need to put all of these together and more information on top of that to get to a list of which ones make up the best investment. So this is not financial advice. I'm not recommending any of these to invest in or not. What I'm doing, I want to go through the actual operations in June and break it down and show everybody this is what happened. Technically, Riot was in second, Hive was in third, and Bitfarms was in fourth, but they were all within 1 Bitcoin of each other. Riot was at 421. Hive, it says 421, but they actually mined 420.8 Bitcoin equivalent, so they were 0.2 less Bitcoin than Riot. and Bitfarms mined 420. And these are three very different companies, so this is not likely to happen again. This was a little bit of a coincidence that we pretty much have a three-way tie for second. So this is a bit of an anomaly. These three companies are different. I do not expect them to have the same level of production on a monthly basis going forward. They each have different things going on, and they all happen to merge in the month of June. So rounding out the top 10, Cleanspark at number 5 with 339. That was their all-time record for 1 month. And June was a pretty tough month for most miners, so I think Cleanspark might have been the only company to hit their all-time monthly record. HUT came in next at 328. GRI was at 230. So you can see there's a big drop-off to number 7. Argo Blockchain had a big increase. They went up to 179. They're in 8th place. Iris Energy is in 9th place at 148. And then Marathon, we talked about, is in 10th place at 140. I want to compare month over month just to give an indication of what direction these companies are going in. Okay, so if I look at this chart, this is basically a month over month chart. The blue line is the lines that we were just looking at. That is June production. What I've done is I put a red line next to that that represents May production. This gives a little bit of a trend analysis because some of these companies had oddball months. So the first thing I'll note is you can see a lot of these companies, the first place, second place, third place, fourth place companies, all actually mined less in June than they did in May. June had one less day than May, so a few of these were actually so close that they mined more per day. They just didn't mine more in total. So to get to Marathon, you'll see that Marathon in May was at 268, and that was a disaster month for them. So they've typically been much higher than that. I think their record was 482 back about 6 months ago. So they went from 268 last month to 140 in June. So that's a big drop off. So again, you're going to see that number rise quickly. They're sitting here at number 10, but I would expect to see them somewhere by the end of the year. If they do their thing, they should be competing for a first, second, or third somewhere in there. The other company that had a big jump you can see is Argo Blockchain. They did 124 in the month of May, which was a very bad month for them. So in June, they got back on track with 179. Okay, so this is Bitcoin mined year to date. And now remember, June's the 6th month. The year is half over. So a lot of these companies expected, I think, to be a lot further along than they are right now. So I want to point out just a few different numbers. So the top 4 are the same as the monthly, which is Core Scientific in first, Riot in second, Hive in third, and Bitfarms in fourth. Those 4 seem to have differentiated themselves in the first half of the year. Marathon sitting here at number 5 at 1,965 Bitcoin mined year to date. So not much change in the order when you look at this on an annual basis, but you will see there seems to be groupings. We've got Riot, Hive, Bitfarms that are kind of together in one group, and then just one notch down from that, we've got HUT and Cleanspark, and really Marathon is sitting in that group right now. However, they will break out of that group. And then from there, it really drops off. So at number 7 is Cleanspark at 1,863. There's a significant drop off to number 8, which is Greenidge. They had 1,183. So you can see there's still a very clear top 7. That's been true all year. I thought by June we would have a very clear top 10, and some of these companies would be further along, but everybody is going a little bit slower than expected. These guys are not competitive for getting into the top 10 at this point. This is each company listed by the amount of exahash that they reported in their monthly operational update. Core Scientific has far and away the most machines up and running. Riot Blockchain is second. Bitfarms is now third. So Bitfarms has made a big surge this year. They're now in third place. GRI and Argo Blockchain are coming along. They have increased their exahash rate, and I think they will continue to do so. So again, I want to just compare month over month so that we can take a look at what the trend is. Okay, so this is month over month. Again, the blue lines are the lines we just looked at. The red lines are last month, May. So this will tell you what direction certain companies are headed in, and you'll see the top 3, Core Scientific went from 9.2 to 10.3, so they were up. Riot Blockchain actually went from 4.6 to 4.4. So again, Riot is taking this opportunity, and they basically explained it in their operational update. They are moving some machines around. They're moving some machines out of New York to Texas in order for those machines to be self-hosted at their Texas mining instead of paying for co-hosting. In addition to that, they took some of their older machines offline to refurbish them and get them into immersion cooling. So they've taken a few steps backwards in an effort to ultimately move forward. Bitfarms went from 3.4 to 3.6. They have just been consistently adding exahash every single month all year. Hive went down a little from 3.4 to 3.2. They similarly took some machines offline and are changing some things around. And obviously the other number I really want to point out, this is where you can see where Marathon really just, this number just doesn't mean anything. They're at 0.7 this month. They were at 3.9 exahash last month. Now, they did not produce at that level. A lot of those machines were not up and running and not necessarily efficient, but this is a drastic drop off, and I would expect them to go right back up to 3.9 and beyond sometime in the next 90-day window. This is Bitcoin HODL position. There's only 10 companies that are actually reporting that they're holding any Bitcoin on their balance sheet. It would appear the rest of all the companies are selling all of their Bitcoin as they get it. So that's been a pretty big shift in the industry. About a year ago, pretty much every Bitcoin miner was holding every Bitcoin that they mined, and they were funding their operations through debt and equity. So that has changed drastically. So these are the 10 that remain, and you can see DigiHost is at 293, so that's a very small number. CleanSpark's at 561. They pretty much sell all their Bitcoin every month, so they've been at a similar number for quite some time now. So if you look, there's really only a few companies that are still completely hodling their Bitcoin. The first one is Marathon. So despite the fact that operationally they're not really where they want to be, and it may take them a month or two to get there, financially they've been strong enough to still hold all of their Bitcoin. So they have not sold any Bitcoin. They continue to put all the Bitcoin that they mine into treasury, so they are saving their Bitcoin. So they have the most Bitcoin on their balance sheet out of any company. They have 10,055 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Now, having said that, they bought over 4,000 of these about a year and a half ago. So from a self-mined standpoint, they actually have less Bitcoin than HUT and Riot. So although they're in first place overall, really HUT, which is in second place overall at 7,406, they also are holding 100% of their Bitcoin. So they have not started selling Bitcoin, and they don't intend to. So really at 7,406, they have the second most Bitcoin on their balance sheet, but they have hodled the most Bitcoin. These are 100% self-mined. Riot Blockchain is in third. They have 6,654. These top three have really separated themselves from the rest of the group. There's a significant drop off to number 4. Riot Blockchain right now is doing a hybrid. They seem to be selling somewhere between half and 3/4 of their Bitcoin each month to fund monthly operations and putting the rest into their HODL position. So you can see from 6,654 in third place, fourth place drops down to 3,293. So Hive and Bitfarms are in fourth and fifth. They're fairly close. And then there's a big drop off to Core Scientific at 1,959. Argo Blockchain at 1,953. Okay, so this is Bitcoin HODL month over month. Again, these blue lines are the ones we just looked at. So this is in ranking order for the month of June. However, these red lines are each company's Bitcoin's HODL position in the previous month. So a few jump right out at you. The first one is, you'll see Core Scientific went from 8,058 down to 1,956. So they sold over 6,000 Bitcoin. Between May and June, they've sold almost 80% of the Bitcoin that they hold. So they've drastically changed their philosophy. Bitfarms had another big change. They were at 6,075. Bitfarms had been hodling 100% of their Bitcoin basically for the last year and a half. Well, in the month of June, and I did do a separate video on this, for reasons of restructuring their debt and for purposes of liquidity, they did have to sell about 3,000 Bitcoin. So that is a drastic change for them. And I think that they are now going to be in a position where they're in a hybrid of holding some and selling some. So these two companies had the biggest change. These were dramatic changes. So if we look at the month of June, so this is their efficiency rating. Essentially what that means is that Hive is getting 132 Bitcoin out of each exahash that they have up and running. They're in first place. Iris Energy this month was in second place at 127. And it trails all the way down to Argo Blockchain, which is at 81. So that's a very significant difference. I'm going to do a comparative year to date versus just the month of June as well. So once again, on this chart, the blue lines are the ones we just looked at. The red lines are their average on each month over the course of all 6 months of this year. So that evens things out a little bit in case there were any anomalies in June. So you'll see Hive, which was in first place in June, that was actually less than their monthly average efficiency. They're averaging 135 Bitcoin per exahash so far each month all year this year. So that is by far in first place. You can see Riot is actually averaging 106. They were way down the list in June, but that was a bit of an anomaly. They've been doing much better than that most of the year. Somewhere around 110, 112 would be the average for all the companies all year long. So this is an important statistic because essentially you want your Bitcoin mining machines that are up and running to be efficient in mining Bitcoin because you're paying the energy costs, the overhead costs. So the more Bitcoin you can mine per exahash, the more money you're going to make as a company. So that is the last chart I have for this month. I will probably add some more of these next month. Let me know if there's anything you guys want to see in specific. I'm trying to improve this information on a monthly basis. June was difficult because a lot of these companies really struggled in June and they put out their operational updates late, and some ended up not putting one out at all. So that's the latest and greatest. That's how everybody did in June. If you made it this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.